have with DIY and the problems you don't even know you have. Maybe. Hopefully.
One day we're going to actually do that, aren't we, James?
No, look, we always hit stuff that people have got issues with. We always have a nice little laugh around the way. And
we do.
Yeah.
It's true, but then I also think our digressions, interestingly enough.
That's why people love watching us on YouTube. Which, if you haven't caught us on YouTube, if you're watching us, you're obviously, and we're looking at the camera now, you obviously know where to find us. But if you're listening and you don't know that you can get us on YouTube, go to the James Cast, all one word, my channel, and we're there.
Wonderful. I've actually had a weird one over the last couple of weeks. As you know, I've been here, there, and everywhere, but not able to podcast. And I had two different groups that actually wanted to hear what the heck we do on these podcasts. The first one, oddly enough, was my children.
Yes, I love that. So that's awesome. They are like our biggest fans, aren't they?
They are. They absolutely love it because now they understand what a podcast is amongst their friends, and the conversation had, who knows anything about podcasting? Well, said Ruby and Dylan, my daddy does podcasting.
He's an expert podcaster.
Yes. And what's it about? We will fix it.
Silence.
And then we will fix it. And then, yes, that's my daddy's business. And next thing you know, they've had a whole history lesson on We Will Fix It and essential maintenance. So that was lovely. And then I've been back in the UK, as you know, and my sister asked the same question. She was like,
okay.
What can you talk about? In fact, she said, I know you can talk, but what can you talk about maintenance-wise for, what have we done now? What episode's this? Do you know?
You know what?
60-something?
Oh, no. Maybe. Hold on. You keep talking and I'll...
And she asked me, so how can you do this for so many episodes and still have stuff to talk about?
Yeah.
And I was like, you're kidding, aren't you? I haven't even begun. This is just the very, very early stages to work out what it is that we're actually going to talk about. And she said, is it always about maintenance? I'm like, it kind of always has an element of maintenance in it, but very rarely is it just about maintenance. It's kind of about life and whatever is going on. And then we listen with a combination of school runs with the kids and then also when I was in the car in the UK, I ended up listening to quite a lot of episodes. And it was lovely. It was so nice to listen to things as little snapshots in your life and through the year, which is the other thing, because maintenance services are always related to the seasons and what's going on. Yeah. So it was actually, it seems a bit odd to actually listen to yourself doing a podcast, but it was lovely to do that review.
I think this is bordering on episode 70.
No.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Well, we obviously can't say 69, can we? On our podcast.
I think that was the last one, actually.
Was it?
It's either 69 or 70, because I'm not, as the podcast world works, there is a point where there are some in the can.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if we have one in the can or none in the can.
Well, with me having been away for a while, I'd be very surprised if we did.
Well,
we did build up a head of steam beforehand, didn't we?
We did have a little bit of head of steam, and what my problem is, when I put them up on Anchor, and then it gets distributed to the world through iTunes and through Google and through Deezer and others, I don't necessarily put up the video at the same time, which I probably should, but there tends to be a lag in the video. So sometimes we're a couple behind, and so at this point, we've got this up, but if you were tuning into YouTube, you'd see, there's different shows going up at this point. So
it's a huge amount of work. People don't understand the amount of work it takes you to get this all together and online.
Oh man, but it's fun.
Not going to be the same time because it's just huge amounts of work to do, which we all appreciate. By the way,
thank you.
Your podaholics appreciate you dramatically. So thank you.
And so, what did your sister think when she had to listen? Did she go, "Oh, okay, I get it"?
Yeah, she did actually.
Okay.
Which was really odd. She was hugely supportive, but Claire really is actually. That's kind of her way, and it was nice to share it.
Yeah.
It's nice to give her a little insight because I don't see enough of her.
Yeah.
And to give her just a little bit of an idea of what we do was just wonderful.
I want to jump right back to the shed, because if you've been listening, did you see that
really?
face? Well, because if anyone's been listening, they will know about the drama of the shed. They'll know about the drama of the father-in-law helping with the shed, and then the father-in-law being exiled to the sisters to do other work.
He's now in Spain.
Exiled from the UAE.
And the UK.
The UK.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's far enough. Where's further? I'm kidding.
Iceland.
Warren is a legend.
But that whole process, I mean, you built this shed, you put it together, you were working on the shingling and the tar papering and the doors and the hinges, and this has been going on for months.
Oh, no, it's been going on now, I think, are we a year yet?
Is it a year?
Oh, no, it isn't, because he arrived just after Christmas last year and stayed for 6 months. So we thought it was a week. So, yeah.
A cargo container arrives and he's unloading his furniture. I said, I'm just here for a week.
Well, this was the whole pandemic thing, wasn't it? And I've got to say, 99.9% of it was utterly brilliant. It was a really good reconnect because we got a little, not estranged, but we just didn't really have that much time with him. So it was wonderful from that perspective. Now, getting back to the shed. It's exactly where it was when you last asked me, and the time before that, and the time before that.
So why is it stalled? I mean, because this is the question that everyone has when they start a project.
Yes.
Am I going to be able to finish it? And I've got no scientific data here, but I am pretty sure that many DIYers get started and it's that last, what do we call it in marketing? It's the last
I call
mile.
it the last 2% when it's regarding my shed.
The last 2% just kind of sits there and it's like, yeah, I'll get to it.
Yes. Yeah, it is. It's one of those. So there's a mixture of circumstances here. So the first one was it got really hot for the summer, and at that point,
but you've lived here for how long?
Oh, it's only been 18 years now.
So you know that it's okay. Just to clarify, not a new person to the UAE. Okay, keep going.
No, so I did know this was coming. Let's not make that mistake.
Another side question is Natalie on board with the last 2%, or does she just not go and look at the shed?
No, she does make the comment now and again that maybe I could just do that last 2%. That's not quite the words that she uses, if I'm honest, but this is a full family podcast. But where we're at, so what I did was pre-summer, so the combination for us is, obviously with the summer period and when it gets hot, work gets busy.
Yeah.
So the focus kind of moves away from other projects to work stuff. And equally, cars get busy as well, so I had the option of cars. So what I did was, pre-summer, I made sure that it was watertight and protected in all areas that needed protecting.
Right.
What I didn't do was anything that looked particularly nice. But the odd thing was, I was looking at it this morning just as I was finishing the walk with the dogs, and I noticed that what I had done really well was that I'd finished the back side of it and left the front side to do its last thing. What was I thinking, you know? But the front side, actually, when I thought about it some more, I realised it's because the front side, my father-in-law, Warren, had put on the roof top, whatever you want to call it.
And that's all done, right?
No. He'd made an error in terms of he cut too short one piece. So I knew that at the time, if I did the other side and I did it my way, I could do it quickly in the time I had available, but the front side was going to be an absolute pain. So I did that side with the amount of time that I had, and that's all done. Now the other side, I still need to do. But it's basically watertight without a doubt, and we're using it. I literally was in there with Ruby only a couple of days ago, fished a bike out, and I've got all sorts of Pajero tyres in it. I've got another 3 mountain bikes, a shelf that's holding about 160 kilos that we put together as well. So it's proving really useful. Oh yeah, it's great. It's absolutely fantastic. And the other thing that was really good was it's not degrading.
Okay.
So one of the things I was worried about was here in the UAE with the horrific climate that we've got here in many respects, with huge amounts of UV, sunlight, unbelievable heat and sunlight, I thought that was going to be a bit of an issue. So I went really, really top end on materials, and then equally top end on finishes as well, to make sure that it was bang on, and it really is. I'm absolutely amazed. There was no degradation in that whatsoever.
Nice.
So over the moon about that. But I need to see, right now, as we were just talking about off air, I have never been busier. It's utterly insane.
But this is the other problem. So whenever we're putting together DIY projects, I think we all set out with the best intentions. It's like, yeah, I can do this, and I can get this done in this time period, and I've got all the pieces, and then we start doing it, and then life creeps in.
Well, the other thing that people don't think about, which was something that I didn't think about either, was the amount of time that you've allocated, multiply it by 4 as an absolute minimum. Because that's the way it always works out, you know? Even something as simple as putting a picture up on the wall.
Gotcha.
when you think about that, and especially in the UAE here with our ridiculously hard walls, instead of it just being a question of a nail, stick it in the wall, hang up picture, if you do that, you end up with a blast hole about 1.5 inches wide that you're then going to have to fill, repair, then drill it correctly. And then, so you've got all these tools to be able to get out. You then need to have a plug, you need to have a screw of the right size, and away you go. Well, that is a multiplier of 4 without a doubt. Go to a bigger project and you've got exactly the same scenario, which is what we found. So with a really comprehensive, we had an instruction kit. And even with that, when we ordered all the parts that were stated within the kit that we needed, that was the first load of what came. and then we literally had about another 3 or 4 loads that were required to actually make it look decent as per the picture.
Oh man.
Yeah, which is, it's all well and good, and we loved the whole scenario. But it is always the way. It's always the way with DIY. It's never as simple as you expect.
And you got to plan for that.
Yes, you do, which I didn't. And you know,
yeah.
But then there's another one which is really getting on my nerves at the moment.
Okay, but hold on, before we get...
No, with the shed.
Oh, okay.
With the shed.
Okay.
So basically, I've bought these absolutely stunning L sections, about
you mentioned
inch
those.
and an inch. Yeah. Now, the issue that I've got is to put those on, to physically attach them, I need panel pins. But the panel pins, which for those people who don't know, a panel pin, all it is a very thin nail that's designed to be thin so that it doesn't crack thin wood.
Yeah.
Now, the problem that I've got is the only panel pins that seem to be available here are in mild steel.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, so when you put those on, as soon as water hits it, you end up with rust, and that rust drips right the way down the wood that you've got and looks utterly terrible. Yeah. So I'm looking for copper or stainless or something like that. Yeah. Well, apparently the nearest that I can find is somewhere in California. These things sit right now.
Get nothing in the UK?
Yeah, but then the UK is an absolute pain. Actually, I kind of discounted the UK, to be fair, because at the moment we've got this big problem with not enough drivers. So anything you try to ship from the UK has an enormous delay on it. So I kind of just discounted the UK as a source. But so I need to kind of find that. But that is the very, very last. I've got another 1.75% to do before that little bit comes in.
So when do you think this project will be wrapped up?
Well, this is where the curveball comes in.
Oh, there's another one.
Yeah, there is. I have just hit the most wonderful home run of Emirates auction vehicle purchases. Yeah. And so, actually, I haven't...
All Pajeros?
No, none of them Pajeros.
Whoa.
And I haven't...
hold on.
I haven't admitted one very important vehicle to my dearest wife, Natalie. Now, the good news is she doesn't listen to the podcast, so I can tell it's absolutely genuine.
Yeah, but you park them in all of the parking by your house.
No, brain. See, I'm thinking now, and I don't have that parking anymore. I can only park a couple.
Oh.
And I've already got the people.
Did you get called out on that?
Yes, very badly. Very, very badly. So
the security was just waiting for you?
No, even worse than that. So originally, I moved houses. I used to have like a row of 25 that I could take as many as I wanted, which was kind of useful. I got close a couple of times. But this time round, I have just parking, and one of my friends used to live right by where this parking is. But there's only parking, I reckon, for 8 or 9 vehicles, and the residents normally have it all sorted out. Well, I'm only 100 yards away, so I've got equal right to that parking that they have. Okay, so on my dad's group that you know that I absolutely love, I put a little cheeky note to say, oh yes, and thank you very much to my friend Ollie for. I've parked another vehicle outside your house. What I didn't realise was there was another 2 members of the group who live next door to Ollie who said, so I now can't park my car and I'm looking at your eyesore outside my house. So the choice was, do I then go, yeah, fair enough, or do I actually say, you know what, I've got every right to this parking just as much as you have. I pay the same rates that you do. So I tried to find a compromise solution, which was, well, I've got the right to have 1 car there, probably haven't got the right to have 3. So I now have 1 that's normally parked there, but at the moment, there aren't that many around and about, so we're all right. But, so what I have bought is, I bought another Volkswagen Transporter, which is a 2009. Okay. However, at the moment, because of COVID, you're not able to actually go and see it. and they all have dead batteries, so you don't know what the kilometers are when you buy.
Hold on, like we're down into like the 70s for cases.
Yes.
Everyone's masked.
Absolutely.
And you can't go and see this thing?
Physically am not allowed on site.
But it's in a big parking lot, right? The Emirates parking lot?
Yeah.
Over by Al Warson?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, in that enormous facility.
I drive by there. There's no one walking around in there. So you're not going to be within 5 meters of anyone.
Well, for me, that's my cinema. I used to absolutely love walking through there, and I did it once a week. It was brilliant fun. Normally with loads of security guards that used to follow me because they couldn't believe that,
Can anyone just go and walk through there when you could? Oh, okay.
No. It's full, you need full trade licenses and various other
So I would have needed to come with you as your valet.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I can't at the moment.
Okay.
Which, as far as I'm concerned, has absolutely ramped up the entertainment value because basically I'm paying Russian roulette with every purchase. So
I got a side note.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
Which vehicle doesn't Natalie know that you've purchased? Is it one of the transporters?
No.
Okay.
It's a 2003 Volkswagen Bora 2.8 V6 4Motion.
Whoa!
Manual.
Oh my goodness, that's beautiful.
I know, and I couldn't. Well, it's actually, the problem is it doesn't look beautiful. It looks like it's been abandoned for the last 3 years for a bizarre reason. It has been abandoned for the last 3 years. Well, it's got a blowhole in the driver's seat leather, which the rest of it is absolutely perfect.
Oh no.
And it has non-original 18-inch alloys on it, and literally you can't tell the car is black because it was sand covered. And it was perfect, and I had to have it. So for a whole 4,000 dirhams, I decided to take that risk after a glass of wine or four, and away I went and I bought it. I got it to Glenn, because Glenn's my new parking slot.
Okay, so you park him outside his place.
Well, it's so bad that basically, he's now had to open DIP.
To accommodate your vehicles.
To accommodate all the vehicles that I leave at his place. So we put on a battery initially. It turns out it's only done 112,000 kilometres.
It's brand new.
Yeah, and we've got our Beetle Racing Club, which is great for racing Beetle to Beetle. But there's two sessions. There's the beginner session and there's the advanced session. So for half a night, we were sat around doing nothing.
Yeah.
So I said to the chaps, I'm buying this anyway. But the thought is, this could be a completely different driving experience on the basis that it's a four-wheel drive. It's a 2.8 V6. So hopefully, we're going to have as much fun with this as we do with the Beetle. And it means we can go session to session. So all night we're driving.
So have you ever thought of racing transit vans?
Yes, we were banned.
Oh.
Yeah, we tried it.
They're too worried that they're going to flip?
If you can imagine, I've got access to quite a few vans.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be using the ones that we have on the road.
Yeah, you're not going to have the WeWillFixIt ones, with water and stuff in them.
But I know them really well, so I can get hold of them without a problem.
Yeah.
Anyway, it turns out commercial vehicles are banned on the tracks of the UAE, so we weren't able to do that, which is a real shame, because actually we wanted to use the Caddy, the smaller one, which was ideal because they were free and available manuals. And that's the problem. You need manual gears really to race on
I love those Caddies. I always wanted one of those as just the family vehicle.
We've had 17, I think now, and in the end they became a bit too small for us, but so we got rid of them. But again, for racing they would have been ideal, but they said no, so that's how we ended up with the Beetles. So then the third one, what's the third one? Oh, the third one was a scrap transporter, which turned out to be absolutely perfect for what we needed as well.
Okay.
So we've done really well, but that's kind of that side of things.
So when's the shed going to be wrapped up now?
Once I've done all the car projects. But
the car projects are never ending, so the shed might never be finished.
Let's be honest about this. I reckon I've got a maximum of a month before Natalie blows a stack, and I've learnt these days not to even think about starting something until she's already blown a stack.
Okay.
Because if I do it earlier than when she blows, then she transfers that anger onto something different and blows a stack anyway. So I might as well leave it until so we've got the right subject matter for her to legitimately blow a stack before I actually fix it. That's my cunning plan.
Okay.
But I do know exactly how I'm going to do it, and I know how long it's going to take me. I'll multiply that by 4 and away we go.
I like the multiplying by 4, and I think one of the items that I threw onto our list was those DIY projects that we think are easy, but they're really not that easy.
I think, looking back on it, I think I would have really been in trouble had it not been for Warren, my father-in-law.
Yeah.
I mean, he is an engineer, and a very, very good engineer.
Yeah.
And in truth, because I had, at the time, I was flying with the Pajeros and loving every minute of it. So, and he needed projects to do. So we'd often start in the morning, and I'd do an hour with him first of all. I'd disappear to do car stuff, get back in the afternoon, and he's done something epic, you know? So the truth was, a lot of it was done by my father-in-law. And I mean, it's things like, you should see the door. It's literally,
beautiful.
it's just millimetre perfect. There's that air noise as you open it because he fitted it so stunningly.
See, that's what you want.
Yeah, I know. But it's that craftsman mentality that he's got that really has made it quite a piece of kit. And also, it's so strong. I mean, I would happily lift it up with a crane without any problems whatsoever.
You had talked about dismantling it and selling it.
Yes.
And putting in the larger one, because at one point Natalie came out and took a look and she said, it's really not too big. It's going to be bigger. And that was part of your plan. No longer the plan though.
No. It got to the stage where she kind of rescinded that. When she got inside it, because it looks quite small from the outside, but it's much wider than a standard shed.
Which is perfect, right? Because you want something that it's not an eyesore, yet can accommodate all your stuff.
Yeah, and the other thing is, because this has got the kind of traditional Dutch barn roof, rather than just an A-pitch, there's a lot more space high up as well that we can use too. And because it's not flimsy, it's really solid. And we're able to use it also. One
of the things that we often see is people buy those aluminum sheds, they buy those plastic, you know, tough guy, whatever they're called. I call them Tupperware sheds, but
I know which ones you mean.
You know, exactly. Those are really popular.
I've had them in the past.
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, you went for a kit and something. What are the pros and cons? Why wouldn't you have just gone for the plastic tough guy shed?
So the plastic tough guy shed is less than half the price for equivalent to what I paid.
So it's cheap.
It's cheap, without a doubt. They last really well. So they do not get affected.
That's two box checks, and they're kind of grayish brown or.
Kind of. It's almost like a light grey, I think. But
so they're kind of camouflaged.
Yeah, the problem is they look like Shrek. And that was really where my problem lay. If it was an area where I could hide away, then absolutely fine. But this isn't. This is outside the front of my house, the right of my garage. Oh. So other people have done it, but there's no way that was going in our garden. In fact, the discussion between myself and my wonderful wife was, you're not putting a shed there. And I was like, I kind of get it. They are really that ugly. And then I showed her this, and she said, oh yes, we'll have one of those. When's it getting delivered? And I showed her this tiny little box. I went, there you go. And her line was brilliant, which was, has it been cremated? Loved it. But it was only the hinges. And so everything else I had to buy separately. Oh. But as a result, it looks, I mean, it's unique. There isn't another one in the UAE, that's for sure. Yeah. And the only issue that she's got with it is the exterior treatment that I use that has been utterly brilliant. Has turned it a little bit yellow, which is a bit of a negative. I mean, I actually really like it, but she's kind of less happy about it.
Are you going to retreat it? Can you put another coat on and darken it?
I don't think another coat will do it. I think it'll send it more yellow, in truth. And it's got a fair few coats on it already. Yeah. But I think over time, maybe, well, you say that, but it's been, it's almost a year. And it still hasn't dulled down. So... No, well,
is it kind of like those mirror places or wherever, I can't remember which one it was, where the white has turned yellow? Is it kind of that effect where it's just going to get more yellow, do you think?
It just hasn't degraded at all.
Which is really good.
It is, and pretty key to what I was trying to do with it. It was supposed to be a long-term scenario, and it looks like it's going to do that really, really well. So I'm not complaining. I'm happy with it. And you know, sometimes the end project needs to be what you personally want, rather than necessarily what the committee decides.
Just on a side note, I want to talk a little bit about the socials at We Will Fix It, because I follow those socials, and all I keep thinking about is I see the guys, and I see the pictures of the garage and where you've got your vehicles parked and that, and I just keep thinking, are your guys familiar with the James Cast dance craze that is now sweeping the nation and soon the world?
I have seen it, James.
I am thinking that your guys would be right in to the dance.
I think if we can do it to AC/DC,
you can do it to anything. And unfortunately, I forgot my phone.
I'm gutted.
Because that's the phone that I use to do all of the epic Tick-Tocks with. And yeah.
I only found out what Tick-Tock actually was in a meeting a couple of weeks ago.
They put me up as in, this is an example of what not to do on TikTok.
They really just have their head in their hands. We've got a whole social team now that, and actually we're adding to it at the moment. And it's vitally important for a business now to get your socials right. And they just look at me in just disbelief. Literally, to explain to them that I've only been on Instagram for a month and I still don't understand it, as you well know, is they just can't comprehend it. You know, what dinosaur am I dealing with here?
What I love about the socials is you had a recent one that you put up, and it was talking literally what we've been talking about now, is doing DIY projects, knowing your limitations, and realizing that so many of the DIY projects that were sold as, hey, you can do this, and it might be because we're coming from the UK or we're coming from the US or Canada or Australia, where there's quite a DIY culture.
Oh, absolutely.
And you got the big box stores that are selling all the stuff. Doesn't mean you can do it, but they're selling you all that stuff.
In one place.
In one place. And someone's, and I'm thinking back home, so maybe I'm at Renault Depot or I'm at Home Depot, two different brands, and I'm buying, I want to talk a little bit about light switches, but I'm buying a light switch, and the guy who's there is, ex-handyman or ex-electrician, and he's going to say, okay, well, when you take, make sure you turn off the breaker and then open up, and this is what you got to do. It's all done.
Yeah.
Until you get home and then you start looking at it going, oh.
Well, here's the interesting one. I mean, the case in point is that shed, which was, so you think about the one-stop shop that you'd have in the areas that we're used to. Here, I actually went to a lumber yard with full trunks, full logs that they were cutting up to be able to make the wood that I required. Yeah. And there's literally 3 guys there with this enormous saw cutting it to whatever size that we needed. Yeah. It was that basic. You then go to all of the fixings. Those came from a particular shop in Dragonmart that obviously I was aware of. There were some galvanized nails that I could only get.
Those are hard to find here.
Yeah. Well, I could only get them from another store that I happen to know about. The roof shingles, that came from Ras Al Khaimah in the end. And you think about that as a logistics. Obviously, I'm lucky because I've got drivers and various guys that can go and source all this for me. But that's not practical for most DIYers.
No, it's almost like we're discouraged from doing the DIY here.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is a real shame. It is a real shame. That's me with my commercial hat off. And if you imagine what we try to do with people, not just on our podcast, but also through communication, is we try and encourage people and facilitate where we can, with the hope that if they do get beyond their comfort level, then we're there to help on the more maintenance side of things as well.
Well, that's what I loved with one of the posts. So if you're not following We Will Fix It or Essential Maintenance Dubai on Instagram, do, and it's We Will Fix It Dubai is the tag. You had a nice little picture of a toolkit. And as soon as I looked at that toolkit, I knew exactly what we're talking about. And it's a white base with a clear top, and the inside's orange. So boom, you instantly know where that's coming from. I thought you could have put a side of meatballs beside it. It would have been nice. But anyway, and it was really just saying, hey, all your DIY projects, and looking at that set of tools, saying, here's what people are going to the store and buying, with the thought of putting the picture up, putting up the cabinet, putting up something. And as you said, one of the challenges is, we're coming from North America, we're coming from Europe, and our walls don't tend to be concrete. We've got gypsum or drywall, where different countries call it different things.
Of course.
That are a whole different beast to work with. And now suddenly we're coming here with our DIY knowledge, and that DIY knowledge that we've accumulated from other places doesn't apply anymore.
No. And
right down to the electricity. If you're coming from somewhere that's, the core idea of electricity is the same, but some of the ways it's been manipulated in places we live is very different.
Well, it's originally a British system. Yeah. And like you say, it's fine when it is the British system. However, when it has been manipulated and it gets some additional parts to it, it gets a bit scary.
Well, I've got one. We're talking about light switches, and I'm kind of going, man, I need a new light switch. Yeah. I've got a switch in sort of the living room of my place, and I'm pretty sure the switch has, it's 21 years old.
Wow, it's done well.
Yeah, so I'm thinking the switch is gone because it has multiple things on it. So I think it's got 3 switches in one that turn on 3 different sets of lights.
Yes.
One set of lights is not coming on. And I thought, okay, maybe the bulbs are burnt. So I changed the bulbs. No, still doesn't come on.
Do you know, that's interesting because in that situation, I would normally think of a short in the circuit rather than necessarily the switch. Yeah. I mean, it's an easy check for any electrician to do.
Well, and that's the thing. So I'm looking at this and, you talk to us, oh yeah, that's an easy one, you can do it. And I'm going, yeah, I don't know if that's so easy.
No. Well,
and just coming off that, I was listening back to our flood show where we had the pumps and we had water and things. And then I'm thinking electricity because we were talking electricity and I'm going, as much as I can go buy these switches at any of our little hardware stores, and the guy's gonna sell it to me, and I'm gonna say, this is what I wanna do, and he's gonna say, easy, just screw it out, turn off the thing, take a look where it is, screw them in, you're good as gold. I'm going, I don't know if I wanna put myself in that position.
240 volts coursing through your veins.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Is something that is scary.
Yeah.
It's unsafe. And it just isn't something that, unless you are very, very experienced and ideally certified, that you should think about.
I like that, ideally certified.
I mean, I do very little. I do very little electrics. I can talk a good game for electrics, and I can lay it out, and I can make sure that my boys are doing it right. I'm not an electrician. So therefore, I leave it, and I leave it to the guys who really know what they're doing. I know to look at it and make sure that it is absolutely bang on. That's fine, but that's a very different story to actually doing it yourself. In the really early days, here's an interesting one for you. This is our first big job, and it was a photography studio on Beach Road, and we.
Sounds like an SW kind of place.
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
We did a full refit. We did the refit on, on that place. Yeah, this is in 2008, our first job. Dan and I both on the job as well. And then our electrician walked out.
No.
Yeah, I'm an electrician. You don't expect me to do anything else apart from electrics. I'm like, that's not what you signed up for. So we parted ways. And we were left with the one sign on the front to do, which was on a timer. And I still remember now, it threw me across the room 3 times, but I didn't have an option. Well, at that time, when you're that desperate to get a job done and to get money in the bank, it's amazing what you would do. But it is something that, ever since, I have not touched electrics more than wiring a plug or putting a light bulb in, because of that danger. And you think about that, 240 volts 3 times in the space of 2 days, it threw me across the room.
And fortunately, the amperage wasn't cranked up.
If it had been 3-phase, it was 415. It would have been curtains. So, and we know scenarios that have happened like that in the UAE.
So this is that thing. So, again, it's easy DIY to just replace a switch, but think twice.
Yeah, absolutely, for electrics, without a doubt. There's another, the other one that's interesting. You always ask me, so what's big in the office right now?
Because I just think it's fun to hear what's going wrong with everyone.
A great one came in this morning, actually as I was on the way here, which is a friend of mine who's headmaster of the school. His deputy headmaster walked down the stairs today to find 2 inches of water in her ground floor, across her ground floor. Water heater that had broken in the night, and it must have been early in the night for the amount of flooding that's happened. Yeah, it's devastating when that's that scenario. And the thing is, it's possible that there was no telltales whatsoever, it just went. It's unlikely, to be fair. But again, if you don't know what you're looking for, that damp patch on the ceiling, it's never getting better. The reality is, as soon as you see even just a spot of damp on your ceiling, immediately call somebody in or investigate yourself.
There are also the times when you get up in the middle of the night, you're going to go use the washroom, and your house is quiet. And I often find, you're there, and then suddenly you're and you hear it. And it's like, okay, so I'm looking, and then it's like, hold on. I think that's a ceiling tile. It's hit then and you don't want to be 2 a.m. looking at ceiling tiles, but when you hear that little sound, it's like, I got to find what's going on here, and it's little telltale signs, just a little thing.
Yeah, but then the curveball to that is there's twice a year, which, to be fair, was only about a month ago, October, and then normally kind of March as well, where the humidity has gone high. And because most of the buildings here are created through cement block, and flat pour floors as well, you end up in a situation where the underside of that slab is cold, and there's hot air, which is humid, that hits it, which then creates condensation, which then drips on your ceiling.
Yeah.
Now the problem is, if you automatically assume that that's fine, you may well end up in the scenario that this lady had today.
Oh no.
But equally, it may well be a job where literally we say, you know what, shut off all, don't open windows, don't open doors, keep your ACs on, and it will work as a dehumidifier, but there's actually no work for us to do. But there's various questions that our team will ask to be able to ascertain that. And you as an individual are not going to know that unless you're really clued up on DIY and how our properties work.
How do you deal with the fanatical people like me who are it's everywhere, the water's leaking, get here.
Then we start asking various questions. Is your AC turned off? Which room did it start in? Have you opened a ceiling tile, Mr. Fanatic? What did you see when you opened that tile? And just try and get answers to very basic questions. And instead of being given the answer of we're all about to die, which it happens frequently, but we're trying to get together and understand, who do we need to send? Do we need to send somebody, or have we just got a nutter?
Yeah, well, there you go. It's possible. They see my number come up, and it doesn't say the name; it just says Nutter.
Professor Nutter.
Here's another one that this one just kills me. It's the bathtub. And tub's fine. Tub's working great. I don't know, the way the shower works. Somehow the water gets fired up onto the side of the tub against the wall. Yeah. Who knows how that tub was put in. But the near-death experience comes when you get out of the tub, and because somehow the water is not necessarily, when it hits the wall and hits the sill of the tub, going into the tub, there's a bit of water that's somehow channeling around the wall and literally onto the floor as it's dripping off the side of the tub. Then when you get out of the tub and you're standing there and you're toweling, you basically land in a puddle of water that, if you're not aware of it, you're going to go flying. You know that one.
Oh, I know that one, all right.
But I'm thinking, okay, I've lived in a lot of places in the world. Well, I've lived here and I've lived in North America. I never had the problem in North America. Why am I having this problem here? And it's every tub.
Yeah. So the reason for that is quite simple, which is the difference in temperature that we have here means that everything in your bathroom is expanding and contracting every single day.
Nice.
So what in effect, the start problem is the silicon, which is sealing around.
But that seems to be holding.
Okay. It might be holding, and you won't even visually see when that fault has occurred. But the classic is when initially you get a little bit of water that's coming out the side and the phone call comes in. What normally happens is we get there, we open the inspection hatch, which is normally being glued in or whatever, so it hasn't been done in ages, and a torrent hits us of water.
Oh, man.
Because what's happened is...
I don't even think there is an inspection hatch at my place.
It's quite possible.
Yeah, I don't think there is. I've never seen one.
Great bit of planning there as well. But if you imagine, the reason is because labour is so cheap here, what they tend to do is just cement it and then basically tile it, job done. And I haven't had to pay for an inspection panel, or that's difficult to create. So that's what happens. But if we do have that inspection panel, if you can imagine, the underside of your bath, outside of the seal with silicone, works like the most perfect bucket you can possibly imagine. And then the only time that you're going to know that you actually have a problem is when, having been submerged for quite a while, it eventually finds a tiny little porous bit that it can just get a tiny little bit of water through. And then on a daily basis, it might just even be a little drip that you think is just an overflow from your shower or from your bath as you got out. And you don't really think about it. And obviously, it's only going one way. Well, by the time we get the phone call, it can be really bad under there, to say the least. Like, it stinks absolutely horrifically. Or it's gone through the slab, found somewhere, normally around the drain where the drain's been, and it will go through to the ceiling below. That's a really well-known thing in Mira, for instance, one of the developments here. And in that situation, people can't believe that actually the issue was only the fact that the silicone that looked perfect wasn't.
How often do you think we need to replace the silicone around our sinks and tubs?
Depends what has been used. If it's something from the subcontinent, the next day after it's been installed.
No.
If it is something from Europe or the US or Singapore, then at that point it should last for 5 years.
Okay, so about 5 years we're looking at, unless if
we're
we're looking at the top stuff.
Nobody's used that on an original build, I can guarantee it. It's 4 times the price of the subcontinental.
And even at that, it's 4 times the price. It's not that expensive.
No, it's not. It's really not. We're talking 5 dirhams a tube versus, it's 25, so 5 times. Yeah.
So I mean, that's...
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's ridiculous, but that is the shortcuts that are standard here, without a doubt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what about the one where the seal is fine, but the water just channels because of the way the tub has been set? You know, they've set it in, but they haven't really balanced it correctly. It's just off a little bit, so that instead of the water pooling and coming back in off the edge, it travels and then down the corner onto the floor.
That happens, but that's not as prevalent as shower trays that don't flow to the drain. That's almost normal. In fact, there was a development in Dubai where instead of a tray, they did the wet room idea.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they channeled it beautifully. It was at the exact opposite corner to where it was supposed to have been. And I know how that happened, which was the civil contractor and the MEP contractor didn't talk to each other.
Right.
So the MEP contractor thought that it was going to be in the opposite corner to that the civil contractor had done. So the civil contractor did a fantastic job of moving it to the other corner without telling MEP. Standard thing, and that there was nothing to do for it apart from either a chip out, which is the normal way, redo the whole thing, having jackhammered it, which is nasty, or alternatively the bodge is just to literally fit over the top of what was already there, in which case the door will no longer move inwards and you hope it goes outwards. And that's really nasty, I've got to say. That one's really horrible when it happens. And that was one, that was prevalent on the handover of that development, which was like 5 years ago. That was a constant. And we said to people, look, don't employ us. Our labour rates are too high. You need a lot of civil works and you need a lot of labourers to be able to do this. So whatever you do, I hope you're under warranty. And they did actually do a huge number of warranty jobs on that, which was great. But then for a lot of people, it's 12 months from handover that's your warranty. And if a landlord sat on it for a while before it got rented out, then at that point you're in deep, deep trouble.
Yeah, and that happens a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of building going on right now.
Huge amount.
And a lot of residential construction going on, which is great.
Well, this is a simple scenario, which is when rents and house prices start to go up.
Which they have, and in some places around the world, they never came down.
Yeah, well, no, for us, we absolutely tanked it.
Yeah,
right
we
in the middle
tanked
of the pandemic.
It was excellent. That's when you were looking.
Yeah, I know. I did. I was really lucky. I aced it. But
now the prices are through the roof. Like, good luck.
Yeah, remember I was telling you about the house that was double, that was diagonally opposite. It's the same as ours. It's double what we paid now 14 months ago. They've just upped it. Because it's been empty now for 4.5 months or whatever it was, they decided the right course of action was to increase their price.
Are they getting more people looking at it?
I haven't seen anyone near it in ages, but Natalie is fanatical about this and she knows the prices of every single property that's anywhere near us. And she's like, can you believe what they're asking for this now? And it is an utter shed and it hasn't been looked after whatsoever. So it'll be fascinating to see whether or not they smell the coffee or the market actually meets them at this crazy price.
Well, but again, back to all of the building that's happening. And there's so many people that, they're living in older areas and they see all these new places going up and they kind of say, well, maybe I'll move new for a few years. And
but then there's problems with the new places, which is normally the plot size is so small because they've gone, we've paid a huge amount of money now for this plot, so we need to get as many properties on there as possible. And also then you look at the construction that's being done on the older properties is a lot better than the newer stuff, and especially the budget stuff.
So I was in Town Square.
Yeah.
And if you're in the Dubai area, Town Square's got a great flow rider. They've got a Ferris, a merry-go-round, a carousel.
Yes.
Beautiful place. And I'm in one of the villas there, and from the outside, it looks very nice.
Yep.
And they got to walk through. And some folks I know live there, and I'm just I kind of went, oh, well, this is the first thing that struck me was the way it's air conditioned with all these split level units.
Yep.
And I was looking at the positioning of them, and I'm going, well, that's kind of curious that you've got these things positioned where you do. And I was at a 3-bedroom unit, And I went upstairs and I was going, okay, this is cool. And I was there and I was going, it's pretty hot up here. Yeah, the AC's not working right. I'm going, the AC's not working right. The AC's not working.
Yeah.
But what struck me as interesting was then back on the ground floor, there's like a living room, somewhat, like it's got a nice pocket door, which I was looking at how the pocket door was working and I'm going, oh, okay, we'll see how long this lasts. And I was more curious how you get in to fix the mechanism on the pocket door.
It's nasty.
And I was going, it doesn't seem to be any hatch to fix it. So this will be cool but there was no AC in that room.
Lovely.
And I was kind of going, well, how does this place work when it,
Town Square is an interesting one. It's actually better than many. If you're in a budget, or you're looking for a budget property, so a lot of space for little cash, then...
And that was the selling point of the folks who were living there, saying, look, I can't believe how little I had to spend to get this place. And I thought, well, yeah, okay.
So there's only three, in that area, there's only really three. There's either Town Square, there's Mirror Oasis, or there is Akoya, that's much further out. Akoya is just incredible for the space that you get, but it is a long way out. And they come with their problems. You've got to realise that you haven't found a bargain. There is no such thing. The market will meet you. So therefore, what you found is a price point where you're trying to find the best value and with the compromises that you're happy to make.
And I think that's important to realize with any place that you're renting or buying. There's always compromises.
Yeah, there is. For me, it's a no-brainer. I would go for EMOT every day of the week. So I would be in Mirror Oasis, would be my choice. Town Square is generally solid, but the issue that you get with these places is part of the largest cost that they have is those AC units. So what they do is they do the technical calculation based on the size of the property and supposedly the environment. They will add on maybe 1% in terms of capacity, and then those are the size of ACs that you get. Well, the problem with that is they're assuming that those ACs are always running at maximum efficiency. Well, to run at maximum efficiency, there can be no loss over age, which is totally unrealistic. And secondly, they have to be kept in perfect condition all the time, which is pretty unrealistic too. So you then end up in a scenario that you're always going to have some kind of deficit because it had to be new, totally and utterly clean to actually work as effectively as you need it. So then you've got to think about how do I compensate for this? So things like keeping doors open so that all of the units can interact and they can also create the additional circulation. Think about window film. That's always a good one.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, so that way you're reducing the amount of effort that these units have to make. In that case, an annual contract's a no-brainer. Again, problem because you've obviously gone at a price point, so therefore you're like, do I really want to lay out the money on an annual maintenance contract? In this case, and if you remember, as you well know in fact, we have both the ad hoc business, We Will Fix It, and annual maintenance business. And you know what, they make about the same money. So there isn't really a motivation from my side. But if I had a property like that, I would definitely have an annual maintenance contract, without a doubt. But this is not a new scenario. You look at the budget properties around Dubai, something like the Springs, something like the Al Reems within the Arabian Ranches, which were the relative budget properties for the developers at the time. These as well, when they have the 2 bedrooms upstairs, are underpowered. They will work. They will work, but it's a split unit that is designed for both of them. And therefore, that one unit has the same problem. The difference is that with those properties, they have other units that are way over spec that you can compensate with if you leave doors open. So the master bedrooms generally in the Springs are way over spec for what they need. So if people are prepared to have their doors open, then you can help compensate. So there's lots of different ways of dealing with them, but it's so development specific that we kind of work on an individual basis.
And you guys must have great insight then into so many of these different developments from low end to high end, because
I've got statistics for every development and what the failures are. And you know what? It's staying with me because that stuff's worth its weight in gold. Yeah. We had an interesting approach by a developer that asked for that data.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They put a lot of pressure on us. And I wasn't giving it to them. There was no way. That's gold dust. And they'd have to spend hundreds of thousands to actually get that level of data. But what it allows us to do is to profile a development, and secondly, it allows us to actually plan our manning and what we're going to do over the next year based on the kind of jobs that came in and what we feel we can do that next year.
based on what you guys do, this is totally off the left field question.
Yeah.
Based on what you guys do and the trends that you're seeing in maintenance and DIY, what trade, if I was a young buck who's just finishing high school, maybe going to go to college or go to trade school, which increasingly I look back and I think, why didn't I do that?
Yeah.
Like, why didn't I go to trade school, as my brother did, and Joey Chernobyl, or AKA Joey Woo Woo,
the Woo Woo,
the Woo Woo, yeah. The Woo Woo. I think you should just go by that. The Woo Woo. Who did send a dance the other day, by the way.
Did he?
Yeah. From the floor of some shop that he was working in on some, ridiculous machinery that had to be calibrated to some, minutia of a millimeter. There he is doing the dance.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I was impressed.
Rightly so.
Yeah. What trade do you think? What's your thoughts on which direction
for the UAE?
Well, I mean, let's talk the UAE, but let's also think generally as we move out. People live here and they're going to be here in the UAE, but they might end up somewhere else.
Interesting. I would say I would be in. In fact, you know what? I can put this argument to lots of different things. So I'll try and do it quickly, but give you the kind of overview. If I was from the UK, I would definitely think plumbing.
All right.
Pimlico Plumbers, which is a legendary outfit in the UK, is charging, I think it's £125 an hour.
£125 an hour?
Yeah, so that's what, 600 dirhams an hour.
So, okay, £125 an hour. How much does the tradesman take out of that $125 an hour, do you think?
I reckon he'll probably get 50% of it.
Wow.
So he's still doing ridiculously well.
That's good cash.
So that's that. So if I was thinking about the UK, I would probably go in that direction. Conversely, if I was expecting to stay in the UAE, AC is a great business. That means you get a holiday in the winter, which is always good, but it's tough. Yeah. And the other issue is, by the time you've hit your mid-40s, trying to stay on a roof in 50-degree heat is a whole different world of pain.
Yeah.
And you need to be prepared for that, because by your trade alone, you are needed when it's hot.
Yeah.
So that's the issue there. The third one that always kind of works, but it's still a little bit niche, is electrical. So in the UK, you'd probably have more work doing that. And then also there's very different types of electrical work. So in the UK, a lot of the guys are doing construction, so therefore they're doing first fit and systems, and that's a load of cable pulling. It's not particularly technical. But then you could go to electrical engineer status, where you're doing on the design side more than anything else. You then have a finishing electrician, and these boys, you watch them work, and it's all hands and fingers, and the precision is amazing to watch. We've had one of those in the team before on the booking side, and he was just incredible at what he did. His main skill, unfortunately, wasn't booking, but that's another story. But and then the final one is like a maintenance electrician, and there's a European outfit that's set up here doing exactly that, and trying to get enough work to be able to do that, and especially at a Western price point, is kind of difficult.
And that's the challenge here, isn't it? All the time is we want, especially if you're coming from the West, you want the Western craftsmanship, you want the Western precision. But we don't want to pay the Western prices. No,
I mean, we're talking like a 4 times multiplier.
Yeah.
So it's totally out of the scenario that would work for anything other than a very niche outfit.
Okay, there we go. So we got a few areas. If one's thinking of going into a trade, plumbing.
Yeah, I think that's the best route for overall.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to think about that. Colin, you know what? It's time that we wrap up the show. It's another excellent podcast. I've learned something.
It's good to be back. I've really genuinely missed it.
I know it's therapy, really.
Yeah.
We both get a therapy treatment out of it, so I'm always happy. I'm glad you're back.
Yeah, me too.
And keep listening to the rest of the podcast. We've got all sorts of content, whether it be talking about stem cells or talking about cars or technology and a few things in between. So keep listening, scroll through, enjoy, and we'll talk to you again real soon.